So, hello everyone and welcome. My name is Philip Moreira. I have the privilege of being responsible for a team of solution architects, and basically myself and my team, we are part of the overlay SD-WAN team, and we work across EMEA. Our focus is managed service providers and service providers. Today we are here to talk about SD-WAN 2.0 and the user experience in SD-WAN. There are two main takeaways that I would like you to take from this session. User experience is not a feature, but it's rather a journey. It's something that we need to improve and we need to adapt and need to continue evolving. And the second thing is, the moment the focus of Cisco in UX 2.0 in the user experience is to simplify the operational aspect of the solution. A little bit of housekeeping. For the ones that attended sessions, they have seen slides like this. This will take you to the WebEx room. In the WebEx room, myself and we have other colleagues from engineering and from the product management. And we really appreciate any feedback, any idea, any comment that you would like to do. Please do it there. For simplicity, I put the QR code. I think it's not very useful for the one standing on this side, but for the other ones, if you want to scan the QR code, it takes you directly to the room. In the room, the slides that you're going to see today are already there. So if you want to follow up from the slides are available. I also want to mention that this is an intermediate case, but the expectation is that you are familiar at least what vManage is. From the SD-WAN point of view, vManage is part of the management plane, is our single pane of glass. So the operations, the interaction with the solution is through vManage, okay? So what we have in the agenda today, we're just going to briefly talk about what is the difference between the UI and UX. Then we're going to talk about the reasons Cisco decided to embark on this journey of adapting and evolving the user experience. Then we're going to talk about what are the new approach and how that approach comes to life. And at the end, we're going to talk a little bit about going forward, what you can expect, especially in the next release coming on the spring this year. So diving into it, what is UX and what is UI? So most of us should be familiar with the term GUI, that graphical user interface. And user interface is really that, right? It's a set of visual elements that the user can interact. It pertains things like what are the color scheme, what are the buttons, what are the image. But its main focus is aesthetic. And that's its main principle of interacting. When we talk about user experience, we're actually talking about the path that we need to take between what is our intention to do and actually achieving that solution. So the things that the user experience needs to focus is it friendly? What is the experience that the user needs to go through to achieve his goal? And there is a lot of focus on how effective it is, how many times, how many buttons, how many places I need to go, I need to do, what are the actions I need to do to actually achieve my purpose. So let's now talk about why. Why are the reasons that really drove Cisco to reinvent its UX on SD-WAN? What we did was listen to our customers. We need to go a little bit historically and look at the past. Cisco acquired Viptela in 2017. And by acquiring Viptela, it inherited a really powerful architecture, but also brought Viptela UX. So we reach out, with the time passing, new devices, new features keep getting added and added and added. So what we did was reach out to the customers for feedback. Tell me, you that interact every day or almost every day with UX, what you think about it, how easy it is, how you perceive it. Is there anything that we can do to improve? The feedback was quite clear. So the user itself was not intuitive. There were many places we really needed to know what do we want to do to actually to get something done. Then it was complex. And complex here is a brand word. Maybe it was complicated. It was I really needed to have a lot of clicks, change from one bar to the other, from one field to the other to do things. If I needed to put a value, I needed to exactly know what value to insert and where to insert it. Otherwise, I will get an error, and my configuration will not pass. Another thing was troubleshooting. Troubleshooting was there. It was just difficult to find. If I have a problem in my fabric, if I want to find the detail, if I have a problem in one of the tunnels, if I want to detail it, if I want to find it, it was really difficult. And not only difficult, it forced me to change every time that I need to do it. So if now I believe the problem is in one side, I need to go there and run the command or run the tool. And if it's not there and I need to go by option B, I needed to keep changing, so I need to keep navigating from one place to the other. The last part, but not least important, was poor visibility, especially when it relates to application performance. One of the benefits of SD-WAN is the visibility that we gain at application level, but we are not seeing this. We are not getting the message, especially in an easy, fashionable way. So we needed to change that, because as an illustration, this is how we felt. I wanted to do something, but I really needed to know how to navigate. And sometimes it was trial and error. I go to the left doesn't work, then I go and try to the right. And this is something we set up to change. So how did we start it with UX, and what was the principles? Like we said, it's a journey. So it was not something that we could simply change from one version to the other. So we set up on doing things. Here, just to give you a visual timeline idea, Cisco started in 20.6. In 20.6, it was just the first attempt. It was just an enhanced GUI with a normalized coloring, with a few different buttons and scheme. We introduced workflow libraries that we're going to see further on. What are the benefits and how can we leverage to actually perform the actions that we intend? And we've improved the way that we onboard devices. Then we passed to 20.7, and this is December or the winter of 2021. We start our path of improving the monitoring and also improving accessibility. And making the culpa of us, we were not aware that it was difficult for people that have special needs of accessibility platforms. We weren't aware of that, and we need to admit. So we follow the web contact guidelines architecture, and we made sure that the application really fulfills the need of people with diversity. Things like impaired, that cannot hear, that need to use tool to hear the commands, and all the different things. For example, people that have difficulties on the cognitive level. So we made sure that there are multiple ways to actually reach the same destination, not just one. Then 28.8 came, and what it brought, and one of the most important things that it brought, was the first approach to the new configuration style. We're going to go into detail what that means and what are the components, but this was the first attempt. Then things like tagging, a new capability, very interesting, that we're also going to cover, and things like site topology. 20.9, and for awareness of how SD-WAN software releases are created, we have 3 releases per year, and the summer release is the long release, and typically this is what it goes to a recommended release by Cisco, and this is 20.6 and 20.9. And what we introduced in 20.9 was customizable dashboards. So we're giving the capability for every single user that interacts with the GUI to choose the dashboards that you want to see. So it's not static. What is important to me may not be important to any other else or any other group. And we also evolve configuration and site topologies, continuously bringing new capabilities and features. The last release that we have available so far is 20.10. This was December last year, where we brought the first reporting capabilities and things also like troubleshooting and easy troubleshooting, localized policies, security, our first approach into security configuration, etc. And the journey continues. And we're going to see more to the end what is expected to come on the next release. And we can also have some conversations on what is going to come afterwards. So let's go to the second main message, operational simplicity. For this, we need to understand and back up a bit to understand how the solution worked so far. In SD-WAN, in vManage, configuration was made through templates. Okay? We typically have two main types of templates in terms of configuration. So those are feature templates and CLI templates. CLI templates are a set of knobs in an ordered manner that then gets applied to the device. Typically, like we did in the past years, a CLI, but just on a file that gets automatically applied. The second is feature templates. Feature templates are the individual features. VRP, OSPF, interfaces, NTP. Those are the feature templates that we need to configure. And we needed to configure all of these and then apply it to a device template. One particular thing about this device template, it is model specific. And this comes with no excuse, but when Viptela started, they start with 3 single devices. So this model was actually interesting. Today, in SD-WAN, and for us, a SKU means a specific platform designation, we support above 90 SKUs. So there are 90 types of devices. We have the entire 1K family, the 4K family. Now we support the IR family for IoT. We have the cellular gateways. So there was a, given the demand that we had, there was a high increase of devices. So this was not scalable. Maintaining this type of having a device-specific model was not scalable. So we set to analyze this and again get feedback. The feedback that we got is it's not intuitive and it's not sequential. I need to jump several times. Oh, I have in this device template, but this feature is not missing, so I need to create a feature template and then come back and apply it. So it was not sequential. There was nothing guiding me in the system to achieve my goal. So I needed to know how to navigate. Another thing is slow and manual. And it's slow and manual because I need to insert all the values. The system asks me all the values. If the interface is shut down or up, if it's starting up, and I need to provide them. Otherwise, again, I will get an error. I need to know if the device has LTE or not. So there are a lot of specificities to the issue. All of this, combining the fact that we have the feature and device templates, led to a high template sprawl. I don't know how many of you actually deal with SD-WAN, but the feedback that we got for the customers is not even in very large overlays. There was a really high number of templates. And then we need to ask, we need to find them. If I need to change a template, if I need to do a modification, I need to find them. Everyone has his own naming convention, sometimes not very well detailed. So this didn't really make it easier for the configuration to go further. And then there is no structure. There was never organization. How can I combine a set of templates to actually achieve a goal? There was no visibility on that. The template was a scatter, organizing by names. It really didn't make it easy. We already talked, but there were no default values. And this was a challenge, especially asking for the users and the customers saying, hey, just give me the default value, and then I can change it later. But don't make my life so difficult at the beginning, because here is what I want to start. I want to jumpstart this and make it easy to adopt and consume. The last point, it was never device agnostic. Not being device agnostic make it very easy to reuse. Again, for the ones that interacted with the platform, with vManage, very often we created a feature template. They ask me for a specific type of device, and then I'm working on a different type of device, and I need to go to the feature template and add that type of device. I could not simply reuse it. And this is really, really not efficient. So we set up with a set of starting principles. And the starting principles should be very well defined and very applicable to all across everything that we're going to do next. Those principles were simplicity, structure, and reusability. What did he mean, or what was the real core of every single one of these components? In simplicity, we set up, it needs to be a workflow. We need to be able to guide an end-to-end, step-by-step, the user between what he's intended to do and how much he misses or how many steps he needs to do to achieve his goal. And then really clearly identify what is needed, what is mandatory, and what is optional. Because another feedback that we got is, in the feature templates, in the actual concept of feature template, there were still a lot of banners, still a lot of possibilities, still a lot of options. So we really needed to identify, hey, this is mandatory, but this is optional. So maybe now I can focus just on what is mandatory, and later on care about the optional part. Then structure. And structure, we always thought about the main aspect was traditional network. So we decided, hey, we need to be able to group devices, not by name, not by IPs, but by function. What do they mean to my fabric? And to be able to actually group them based on their role or function. This structure really brings benefit, because then I can reuse this structure in other parts of my day-to-day life. Like, for example, monitoring. In terms of troubleshooting, if I give this relevant, if I map and catalog my devices into structures, then I can focus, I know where to focus, and I know where to inflict. And we're going to see some examples of this later on. The last was reusability. And this was a really strong goal for us, is everything that we do once, we should try as much as possible to be able to reuse it. So that avoid me to be creating, recreating, recreating, and recreating. And this is something that we couldn't do in the past. So let's look, a lot of our time, or at least at the beginning, is past configuring the solution. Let's look what this brought in terms of solution and in terms of how we configure the network. We introduce new concepts in this new approach. The first concept is config group. What is config group? Config group basically is a logic. It's a logical grouping of device based in their role. Some examples, for example, east-west, north-south, retail shops or main hubs, data center locations, gateways. Everything that a user can define and give it a name, give it a value that represents the business needs. Okay? Then we introduce feature profiles. Feature profiles are basically configuration buckets that we require to configure an SD-WAN device in an SD-WAN fabric. These feature profiles are then combined into building blocks, and they represent the building blocks of the solution. Again, here the premise is we build them, we save them, and then we reuse them. We have some examples here, but it's typically the building blocks that we see in an SD-WAN solution. So we have a transport, a WAN profile. We have the service side, a LAN profile, and then we have the device profile that represents information of the device itself. The last addition to this paradigm was feature parcels. And basically, feature parcels are the individual capabilities that we want to apply to the device, that we want to configure in the device. We have here some examples, but for example, when we look at the WAN, transport, an MPLS transport, or an internet transport, and an LTE transport. Okay? These feature parcels are the individual capabilities that will be assigned to have a feature profile. So how does this work? And what is the intent of this? We create config groups, again, organize devices based on their function. We create the feature profiles that have feature parcels inside. And then those get applied to the config groups. What are some of the differences here? Let's imagine the config group West. We have 3 devices, and we have applied the WAN profile. The WAN profile has 3 interfaces, or 3 interface type, an LTE, an internet, and an MPLS. Let's imagine that one of those devices do not have LTE. It's not LTE capable. The engine itself needs to be capable to distinguish, hey, if that device has this capability, I will pass it down to him. If it doesn't have this capability, I will just keep it with me. But we don't need to worry about that. The user doing this configuration does not read it. While in the past, we needed to know specifically what were the capabilities of each device, and then apply it correctly, otherwise we get an error. So the system needs to be smart enough. Its engine needs to have the capability to really understand what are the capabilities and what are the needs of those devices. We talk about what's our new approach, but how do I take this approach and actually apply it to the devices? What does this mean to me in the day-to-day utilization? So we introduced guided workflows. Guided workflows are libraries of end-to-end use cases. Typically, as of now, the main use cases that we see of the customers. And what they do is they guide the user through those use cases and ask them at every step what is needed, if he wants to add, if he wants to change, if he wants to edit, and then create that configuration. One of the things that we set to do, and it was a quite challenge, is on the onboarding. One of the feedbacks that we got, onboarding devices could be simpler. Let's say it like this. And this is what we did, is one of our intents in actually fixing and solving that. For the ones that are using the latest releases, especially after 20.9 or to even 20.6, this is what you see from workflows. Now workflows have its own menu tab, and you can see inside of them the available libraries. This does not just pertain to configuration. Our idea is to use these guided workflows in many, many situations. One of the examples that we have now is in terms of software upgrade. What is a software upgrade in SD-WAN Fabric? We need to install the new image that basically copy the new image to the device. And then again, we need to go there after this time and ask to activate or select both at the same time. But this was not programmable. That means that someone needed to be in front of the keyboard to actually perform this action. So in the case of software upgrade, the guided workflow basically asks, okay, where is the repository of the image? What image do I want to apply to the devices? And when do I want to do it? So I can program, say, hey, you can apply it now, or in 1 hour, and then do the activation at night. And then in the morning, I get a report if everything went OK. But it allows me to schedule, allows me to program, and it guides me through the process. Another thing, and we mentioned that there was something that was lacking, was default values. So what we introduce is a smart defaults. And these are predefined settings according to Cisco recommended best practice. What we mean by this is we look at the amount of deployments that Cisco has, and we took what were the more commons. But by all means, we can always change, adapt, remove, and add. This was just the default. As an example, we see that most of our users, for their internet connectivity, they branded or they use the public internet TLOG. So we just mark it as public internet. But if I want to change it, for example, for business internet, I'm free. This is just a way to facilitate. It's just a way to expedite the functionality. Combining the workflow and the smart default, the objective is to get a complete configuration under 5 minutes. Let's now do what are the steps that actually we or any one of us need to do to actually do that. So I need to go to my workflow library. I'm here creating a config group. What I need to do is I need to give it a name. In step 1, I need to give it a name and giving a description. Description is optional. My second step this is populated by the smart defaults. I need to check what I want to keep. I need to check if I want to add, remove anything. And it allows me to also, at the same time, edit the configuration. The next step, it gives me a review summary. So it shows me everything that is part of that new config group. And it creates it, and it's done. These are the steps needed to create a config group. I can now decide if I want to automatically apply it to a set of devices, or I decide I want to apply it later on in a later time. And the workflow group is completed. This is what we tried. This was our goal, to less than 5 minutes have a complete configuration setting that could be applied to the device and could onboard it to an SD-WAN fabric. Any question? Please make it, if there is any question, anything that anyone would like to raise, please feel free to raise it at any time. OK, something that we introduced was tagging. And tagging, it's something that is becoming really, really relevant to us. Basically, tags bring abstraction to a fabric overlay. Okay, tags is a string. Think of it as a string, something that I put to the device. And these are defined by the users. And then what tags enable is to group devices based on the tags. Let's give a practical example of how a tag can operate. I onboard a device to my fabric, but it sits there. It's just part of the fabric. It doesn't have nothing applied. It's still not part of the overlay. No tunnels are being created. I created a tag that, for example, ABC, or new devices. And then I created a config group that are the configuration that we just shown for retail branches. That device is part of a retail branch, so I mark it as new devices. And in the config groups, I can use automation on this. So I can create rules saying that every new device or every device that has a specific tag or group of tags automatically gets configuration from the config group. So now, in the past, every time that I made a change, either for the feature template or in the device template, it automatically went and updated the device. Now this is split. I can decide if it's so, and it will continue to be so, or I can have a double step where I edit and later on update it. And this is, for example, an example of the tag. I tag a device with a tag. I create a rule in my config group that every device with that tag, any change that happens in that device group, it gets automatically applied to the devices with the tag. So I onboard the device. When I market the tag, it realizes this tag is part of the rule of the config group and automatically go and gets the configuration. With all fairness, we're just really realizing the potential of tags. A thing that we plan to do on the future, we plan to use tags much more in different fields. For example, we talk about customizable dashboards. And now we have tags. I can decide, for example, to create my dashboard, and the vision that we have is I can set my dashboard based on the tags. Let's consider a practical example. We have a large network that is divided by north and south. And I'm the person responsible for north. So when I get it, for me, the relevant device or the relevant information that I want to visualize is north. Why not create my dashboard based on that tag and actually see the devices that matter to me? I don't need to see all devices. That's not my focus. So really understanding how tags, and we're going to talk later later in the presentation, when we reach reporting, why not also leverage the tags in reporting? So when I get the report, instead of the whole network that I may care or not care, why not get me just a report based on the tags? So tags, going forward, we see really a lot of potential in how to interact and use tags. Let's now talk also something that we were sometimes called out by our customers, and these are the monitoring capabilities of the solution. With this UX2.0, we set, again, to rebuild the monitoring experience. This was something that we knew and got the feedback that we needed to work on. So as a start, what it did was really rebuild all the dashlets that show up on the dashboard. If you remember from the pre-UX2.0 days, when we landed in the VPN dashboard. There was not really even a VPN, an overview dashboard. So this is what we set to do, and this is the overview dashboard. So when I log in to an SD-WAN vManage, this is the type of information that we see. All this new rebuild is filled with application or with information that I get from my WAN and from my network. And also to streamline the navigation between dashboards. I can decide now if I want to see the entire information from a fabric, but maybe I want to focus in a site. And when I get to a site, I really don't care about information about the control connections for other sites or for other tunnels. So all the information that I have about, for example, application health and the tunnel health, that information should be only for that site, because that's what I'm focusing, that's what I'm aiming. Another important thing for us is to have historical data on the device, applications, tunnels, etc., for at least 24 hours. And the reason is things may happen when we are not in front of the dashboard, but we still need to be aware of that. And if needs be, we still need to be able to investigate and achieve data of what happened. Another thing is applications. And we see continuously more and more focus on application and visibility. So a thing that we try to change, try to think to adapt, is what level of application detail we get and we are able to visualize. And really make a robust data out of it in terms of what we present. Another important thing that we introduced was heat maps. And the heat maps, after analyzing, heat maps were really a powerful way to represent how things are performing through time. And it really allowed me to visually identify, okay, if a specific site, a specific application, if a specific tunnel, in the timeline, how is performing. If I arrive today in the office and I get a report, yesterday at 11 p.m. an application was failing or the site was down, I need to be easily able to identify and start working on it. And this really helps me how to troubleshoot problems in the WAN. The idea of the heat maps is really to be able, hey, if I encounter a situation, if I need to work or detail on the situation, where should I start? And the idea is starts from here. Let's visually give an example on how things change, or by a simple change. An important thing to retain is this information was always there. Application information was always there. Tunnel information was always there. We were just not showing. We were just making life difficult. So many times we needed to even go to the CLI to actually get a portion of data or get a data information. And this is something that we want to change. And this is a good example. So this, in UX, in the previous UX, this is information that I get on my devices and the type of information. And just by changing a few set of information, I can present much more and much more valuable information. So for example, in this case, we added the CPU and the memory. But this is really relevant when we're talking about devices. This could be a really important factor that can clearly highlight if something is wrong. And just giving for the example, if I look at a device and I see that the health state, it's red or a warning to me, first of all, I need to know that this is what I need to focus. If I have an issue, if I have a report, I know what I need to focus. And just with a bit of information, just by looking at the dashboard, and we see that there is a high memory utilization, that gives me some hint, maybe where I should start my troubleshooting efforts. How can I take or how can I lead my troubleshooting tasks and paths? Something that I want to call out is the heat maps we added directly. So we give the option to either see, as previously, see a list of device entries, but also to have an heat map and pass to the heat map and get the historical information easily. Let's take some examples about heat map. So here is the heat map of devices, and I can see my devices and how they behave hourly, because I'm in the device tab. But we really applied the heat map and the heat map concept in several parts. We saw previously in terms of applications, we're now seeing in terms of device. But for example, we can also see it in terms of tunnels. And I can see what is the tunnel, or how was my tunnel performing, and up to the last 24 hours. And I can then go and click in one of these blocks or separation blocks and get information. What was the score? What was the jitter? What was the delay value at that specific time? Any question? Okay. We talked at the beginning that structure is important. Let's see an outcome of being able to structure data. Okay, we talk about things like the feature profiles, the WAN, the LAN, and the system profile. Let's see how they materialize in something that could be very useful for us. We introduce the topology view. In terms of Cisco, and Cisco vision for the topology view is to have one place where I have a topology of either my device and later on of my network with live information from the network. And this topology gets refreshed. So it pulls the information and gives me a visual representation. Another thing important, especially for the way that the system process, was also to get information about the circuits and visualize, very easily visualize what is the state. If possible, when possible, to explain if there is a problem configuration in one of the specific sites. And for cases that we several times talk with customers, and they mentioned to us, yeah, we started small, and we had it under control, but then the network grew and grew and grew, and we had the devices featured, we had the functionality. Now we're a bit lost. So this, we believe, it can also serve as an instant documentation of actually what's in a specific network or in a specific site. And we wanted to represent this in a visual way that every single one of us, or every single one of us that interacts with the application or with the solution actually gets a perception of what is happening in the network. What we adopted so far until today, in terms of topology, we have several components. We now have, from the transport side, already topology available. In the case or what we have today, amber is good, red is something that is fair, and red is something that we have an issue and need to detail. So for example, when I click in a specific link, if I click in the link, what the information it gives me now is the tunnels. We need to understand, and we have some discussion, is when we think about the transport, inside the same transport, we can have multiple tunnels passing. So I need to have information about all the tunnels, not just one. So it gives you a whole set of the tunnels that are running. If, for example, in the example they given, I have my public internet as yellow, when I click there, it gives me information about the tunnels that are passing there. And I need to be able to visualize the tunnels, and we're going to see later on how can, from there, I can immediately start my tracing and troubleshooting tools. What sometimes is asked is, hey, but I want to know how much traffic is passing. This is something relevant for me. So for this, we need to directly click in the interface. Okay? So if I want to know information about the transports, I select the transport itself. If I want to know about information about the interface, I click in the interface, and it gives me those values of traffic throughput. This was the transport. Let's now go to the service. In terms of service, the same. We show information about the existing VPNs in the system. And then after I click on the VPN itself, it gives me information about the VPNs. and gives me the state of EBNs. One of the things that I didn't mention at the beginning, and this is important to retain, this is possible through the new paradigm of configuration. So if you have an SD-WAN fabric, you need to adopt or you need to configure your sites with config groups to be able to achieve this level of detail. So if you have, let's say, a previous configuration type, so if in a site you have several feature templates or CLI templates applied to a device template, this is not possible. What really enables this is the structure that we give or introduce in the new configuration paradigm. This is is the way that we can extract this data. And the last point is on the device and the device itself. When I click at the device, immediately I receive information from that device. And I can see the state, I can see what is the configuration that is applied, what is the config group that is part on, CPU, memory, etc., and also the health, control connections, and BFD sessions. Something, and we talk about lack of troubleshooting, something that we added in 20.10 is, in this dashboard, is now start appearing the troubleshooting tools. So from here, by clicking in the device, getting the information, let's imagine my state, the health is fair or not good, is red, I have an issue. I'm greeted with a set of troubleshooting suites, and I can, from here, click on one of them and start troubleshooting. Another thing that is really important is this will become more and more present depending when we are, and we're going to see that in the next topic. So let's talk a little bit about troubleshooting and what are we doing in terms of troubleshooting. Again, troubleshooting is the same thing. It's not that, okay, we introduce new capabilities like network-wide path insights, the underlying measurements. Those are new featuring capabilities. But there were a large suite of troubleshooting features that were available. So we can already ping, I can already simulate packets, I can already trace route, I can already do speed tests from the solution. But I needed to know where to go to actually start that. And if I needed to change tool, I needed to be specific. So the idea here is, it's not so much a reinvention of the tools, because let's be honest, these tools exist for quite some time. It just makes it easier. Just to have them where I need them to be, so I can accelerate all my efforts and be effective. So another thing that we are working intensely is the output needs to be delivered with the minimum effort possible. So anything that we can fill for you, we're supposed to do it. So if I'm focusing in a specific field, if I'm focusing in a specific tunnel, that information should be present with a minimal view. So I just need to, it's this simulation between A and B, I just need to click B. I just need to click simulate. I may not know when I'm troubleshooting, I may not know the IP address in the other end, right? But I have this information from the tunnel, and the system should know. So this information should be automatically filled, especially when we go to large deployments and deployments with multiple transports, with multiple IPs, where we leverage loopbacks for connectivity. This becomes quite complex, and the purpose of this is all the values should be filled automatically in order to require the minimal output, the minimal input needed to get out the expected output. Okay, so troubleshooting where we need it. Let's give it some examples. This is the site topology where we were before. It's exactly the same topology, but now I expanded my tunnels. So the tunnels that we saw before in the square, when I click in the yellow transport, they give me the tunnels. These are the output that I see from this path. And what I have now is, immediately from here, I have a set of actions that I'm able to take that I'm proposed. And these one are exposed to me. What we're going to see during the several options is, depending where I am, depending what I'm connecting, the actions change. Okay, I can still go, and there's the default other tools. When I click other tools, it takes me to the whole set of tools. But it tries to anticipate, hey, this is where you need, or this is something that you want to perform in this type of scenario when you're doing in a site topology. So for example, when I go to the main dashboard and I'm still looking at tunnels, so I'm still looking at my tunnels, and if I click on a tunnel, the output is different. And the reason here is really to simplify. So there was no, or at the long term, there was no benefit to show everything, knowing that in this example, maybe that point, here I don't want to simulate the packet, for example. I don't want to capture a packet, right? I want to troubleshoot, hey, why my tunnel between these two endpoints is in this state? This is what I care. So this is an attempt of us in helping you and guide you. Nevertheless, and I want to repeat this, the default is other tools. So if I click in the other tools, I'm taking for the whole suite. And then I can decide. Okay? Any question, any point? Okay? So now let's have a look a little bit what we introduced in our latest release. So this is 20.10, and this is in last December. The reason that we brought this up is, again, we recommend to the majority of our customers to stay in the long release due to stability and other reasons. So we really want to highlight what came last and how useful could it be. One of the things that we introduce is security profile. This is just a first attempt to bring security to the new configuration paradigm. And what we support today is in terms of a feature parcel. And basically, we incorporated either the SIG templates, and SIGs are for creating tunnels for a secure internet gateway. Umbrella is the one in the house, but also Zscaler and others. And another thing that we can import from this is the unified security policies that we introduced in one of the previous versions. Today, this is what we support in terms of security with the new security paradigm. Excuse me. Another addition was the local policies. And today, again, we have a policy object. And what this policy object also functions, as a feature parcel. And what it allows me to do is configure localized policies, things like QoS, ACL, and routing localize entity device itself. I think there was really, for a very long time, a requirement from our customers were reporting. And the capability of the SD-WAN platform itself to give a reporting or giving a reporting use case. And the inception of this is in 20.10. So as of 20.10, we can now either manually start a generation of the report, or we can also plan reports based on dates. For example, I want the first day of every month that the system generates a report, and it has the possibility of email it to a person or group. Okay. As part of this report, now we support a set of features like site health, tunnel health, application health. But the idea going forward is to bring, based on the needs and the requirements, to bring more capabilities of reporting. Like we spoke before, one of our intentions is to integrate, to make it more granular, not to give, the idea is also not to give an amount of data, and then it's very deep. I need to parse, I need to select what I want and not want, but for example, incorporate things like tagging and allow me to focus really, hey, this is my focus, this I want to do, please give me a report based on this. And tagging is one of the things that we hope to bring soon. So everything that we spoke so far is available today in the latest release of SD-WAN in 20.10. Let's now take a look what is coming next. And like we mentioned, is a journey. So let's look at what can we expect in the next releases. In terms of SD-WAN, the next release is going to be 20.11. This is supposed to come out in the spring of 2023, so roughly around April or March. One of the things that we want to introduce is a workflow for security, for the creation of security policies. So again, this will be a guided workflow that guides the user on creating a security profile that then could be applied to one or more multiple configuration groups. Another thing is the enhancement of the alarms. And the reason comes today, I'm only able to focus in one alarm. So I cannot do very filtering and correlation between multiple alarms. And we plan to change that. So one of the things that we plan to change is the way that the alarms are displayed to give more valuable information, but also I'm able to correlate different alarms, then could trigger actions based on that. One of the things that we have to present is we saw when we get to the device and topology level that the troubleshootings were added. But if I have a device with a problem, it will be also important to me in the same action button to get the alarms. And this is something that we plan to bring and introduce. So really try to make it easy as possible. If I see a problem, if I detect a problem, try to correlate all the available information, have it at hand, let's say, and then start my configuration efforts. So let's recap what really is the intention of Cisco SD-WAN and what are really the goals of UX 2.0. One of them is the enhance UI, okay? Really standardize and improve all the interactions that the user needs to do and needs to perform with the platform. Another one is the workflow library. To be able to introduce complete onboarding, complete the end and use cases in a streamlined way that provide end-to-end guidance. Simplify, and this means simplify configuration. Okay, now I have workflows, I can still help on providing the defaults and the recommended defaults. This helps me speed up, but at the same time, if I want to change, if I want to modify something, the user can do it and can actually act on it. Simplify troubleshooting. We introduced Topology View. We have a glimpse of how Topology View can really help me point out and can really showcase relevant information to me. Let me now act on that. If I need to troubleshoot, if I need to have a perform action, let's do it directly from there, having a minimum interacted needed in terms of input with parameters. And have broad visibility, have new customizable dashboards that really bring relevance to the application and to the application performance and really show me in a really valuable way what is happening on my network and what are the main applications and the main information that they have to provide. And the last part is the granular management. And here granular management comes from the fact we see more and more the need of personas interact. We have, for example, the SecOps. If we take the combination of multiple aspects, now I can customize my dashboard. I can give tags to this. And I have a very granular role-based access. Combining these two, I can create personas that, for example, if I tag or if I classify a user being one of those personas, it will have a customizable dashboard and it have its own, let's say, dedicated front end and actions. Any questions? These are the real focus of Cisco SD-WAN. Okay, so this is all that we have today in the sessions. We're going to be around, so any question, any particular use case, any suggestions. One of the things that we really ask, this being a journey, we need your input. We may be setting on a path, that actually our intention is the path, but we're actually being deviating and not being effective. So in the WebEx team, with your account team, with your Cisco partners, please provide feedback. Please give us comment, because this is an ongoing journey. We are onboarding more and more features at every release, and we need to process, and you need to make those features available. Those capabilities need to be available to you and your customers. So please let us know. And this is it. Thank you. Any question, any point that anyone like to bring up or raise? Another important thing to mention is, in the world of solutions, if you've already been there, if you face the world of solutions on the left corner, that is an SD-WAN and SASE booth. And everything that I show, you can actually see, feel, and experiment. So there are demos. The challenge that we have here is also always how to demo and how much time. So if you really want to experience, if you want to see anything that I mentioned, even in the latest, for example, reporting, if you want to see how it works, if you want to see how it's populated and generated, please drop by in one of the SD-WAN booths, and please ask one of the staff members to give you a guided tour in one or more specific feature or capabilities. Thank you so much.